Hey Patreon herd bulls, welcome back to chapter 5 of the herd bull instructional calling videos. So in the first few videos we taught you how to choose the right diaphragm reed, where to place that in your mouth, gave you drills to get started. We went over cow sounds and bull sounds. Now what? Now we're going to take these sounds, we're going to go out in the field, and I'm going to talk to you about how I use these sounds while out hunting. And yes, that means we're finally going to talk about the breeding sequence. You guys have heard me mention it on some Wapiti Wednesday Q&As, and you've heard me kind of hint about it. Well, tonight you're actually going to find out everything within that breeding sequence, within the sounds. It's going to be kind of tough. I am planning on doing another video follow-up to this where I'm out in the field so you can actually see me doing this, and I will have a hunting partner or two that's going to act like a bull and do some interacting with them so you can really see how I do this. So you know, there's a lot of different ways and approaches to call elk out in the field. Kind of my approach and what I've evolved over the years and have discovered is, you know, really what's going on that time of year. It's the rut. There are sounds that are synonymous only with the rut. You don't hear them any other time of the year. You know, having the opportunity to watch bulls respond and herd dynamics respond when there is a cow in estrus and how much excitement that creates. It just got me thinking, okay, if they're out looking for a hot cow, if they're out looking for this scenario, why not incorporate that into our calling sequence? Why not give them what they're looking for? And that's kind of how I started with the breeding sequence. But just like any calling approach or scenario, you don't want to jump right into full-blown tilt, max sounds, and excitement. It's almost like when you're out camping and you're building a fire. Okay, you start with small pieces of wood. As the flames get bigger, you add bigger pieces of wood to build that bigger fire. That's the same approach that we're going to do here. Now, kind of my approach is the same whether it's day one of the season or the last day of the season. What happens with, you know, throughout the day can vary. And actually what happens with each interaction with the elk can change. So, but let's just kind of jump right into it. So now I always leave camp in the dark, come back in the dark. I want to spend as much time on the mountain as possible to maximize my opportunities and increase my chances for success. Because I've studied maps extensively of the area and I've been in the area, I understand where the elk feed, I know where they bed, I know their travel corridors. So typically in the morning what I'm doing is starting at lower elevations, gaining elevation, and I'm typically heading towards their bedding area. So just like elk would head to that bedding area, you know, we've talked about it before, act like an elk, think like they do, move like they do. And so that's kind of why I've, you know, talked several times about matching your surroundings. And so start low, work high, but also the reason for that is morning thermals are blowing down. They're coming down the mountain. Cooler air is heavier, so obviously it drifts down. As the sun rises and that ground temp heats up, the thermals turn around and start going uphill. So that's why I start low and work high. Now, like I said, I have a specific place that I want to get to. What I do from where I start to that point is I'm going to do some locating as I move along. Basically, what I'm trying to do is get a bull to respond back, get a bull to let me know where he's at. Now again, this doesn't matter if it's the first day of the season or the last day of the season, I'm going to start the same way. I always do my locating the same way. And I always start off with that lost mew. Remember the lost mew, we're focusing on that high note. You want to have that little gap in between it. Now, the reason I start with the lost mew is it puts that reed in the roof of my mouth, it gets saliva on it, it gets it seated, but also if there's a bull that's close by, I'm not going from quiet to ripping a loud bugle. So, and there will come a time that you let go with these lost mews and a bull bugles back within under that 100-yard, well within your window of setting up and working that bull. And now all of a sudden you're scrambling to get the wind right and get shooting lanes and the setup right. And a lot of times that bull is already trotting in to see you, especially early in the year, because they're cruising looking for cows anyways. Now also when I get to a location spot, I typically move away from my hunting partner a little bit. So, because I don't want to hear them playing with candy wrappers or shifting their feet or this or that. But also the advantage of splitting up like that is it can change how the sound goes through the trees. So by them just being 5 feet away or 6 feet away, they might have a different angle that they hear a bugle at a distance that I don't, because there's kind of thick trees or something blocking that angle. So separate even before you start doing those lost mews. So now, no response from the lost mews. Then we're going to go into a location bugle. Now, remember when we went through the bull sounds, I said a location bugle can be done as a 1-note, 2-note, or a 3-note type bugle. Typically, the way that I will do my locating when start, and this is one thing that I will vary sometimes. Most of the times I'll do a 1-note or a 2-note. And when I do that 1-note, if you've ever really listened to an actual bull bugle, especially locating, he's kind of thin and weak at the start, and then that bugle kind of expands. Well, that's what I want to replicate, and I'm going to do that with my diaphragm pressure. So I'm going to start with just medium pressure or medium airflow to get that sound going, and then I'm going to press on my diaphragm to increase that airflow and get that sound to kind of expand. So, and this is what it sounds like. I'll hold that note for a little bit and then just kind of fall off the backside into nothing, but no big finish, nothing fancy, just that simple locate. Now this is the part where you're going to sit, stand quietly. You're not going to make any noise. You're not going to talk because you're waiting for a response. You want to give that bugle a chance to get out and come back. Okay, if I haven't gotten a response, then this is where I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to switch it to a 2-note with a couple of chuckles at the end. So I added an element into it, and I also changed it from a 1-note to a 2-note. Again, wait 30, 45 seconds, give the chance for a response back. If no response, now I'm going to add in, or I'm going to change the element. I'm going to change it to a lip ball. The reason we changed to a lip ball this time is because if there's a bull that's close by within a couple of 100 yards or so and he has cows, you're a safe enough distance away when you're doing the location bugle that he may not want to respond. He's not going to sit there and go, yeah, I'm right here with cows. But as soon as you do this lip ball bugle, because remember the lip ball tells cows come to me, I'm a dominant bull, but it also tells other bulls stay away. So he doesn't know if you're calling to his cows or not. So that is one thing that can get that bull to respond. And generally when they do respond, there's a little bit of aggression in that. Okay, now if you still don't have a response, I'm going to lip ball and add in those chuckles. Again, just showing a little bit of aggression, showing that I'm a dominant bull, trying to get those cows' interest. And that's what can spark those bulls to respond when they necessarily may not respond to a location bugle. So again, I'm going to sit there for 30, 45 seconds. If no response, then I'm moving on to my next location point. Now, distance between the location points it varies how thick the vegetation is, what the topography is doing. If you're walking up a trail and you come around a bend, that's obviously going to be a place that you're going to want to stop because you had the face of that ridge or whatever in front of you that was bouncing your sound back that probably didn't carry over for you. So that's why coming around that, popping up over the top of a ridge, if you go from thick timber to maybe a little more open timber, just anytime you kind of get changes like that will be good location points. So now I'm going to do this until I get to that location I want to get to, or I come across really fresh sign, fresh tracks, fresh pea spots, fresh poop. And the poop, what I mean by fresh is it's green. So when it first comes out, it's green. As air and oxygen hits it, it turns brown and then eventually black. So if it's green, see the fresh tracks, you can smell the pea, you can smell the elk, you know they're close by. They're within hearing distance. And you can set up right there and start doing kind of this blind calling routine. So like I said, moving along until I either get to the destination I want or I come across some really fresh sign. Now, we're going to act like I didn't hear any bugle. I didn't come any fresh sign, so I got to where I wanted to. So now we're going to go ahead and set up. And this is where, going to spread apart from the shooter. And at this point, it's kind of a guessing game, which direction the elk are going to come from. But remember, we already know where they're bedding, so we have a pretty good idea. So I'm going to set my shooter on the side of me towards that bedding area. And I'm kind of on the same plane with that bedding area. This is the bedding area. We're on the same plane, and that shooter is sitting between the bedding area and me. So what I'm going to do is I kind of have a few trees picked out. And like I said, I will do a follow-up video so you guys will be able to see me doing this out there. And hopefully it'll kind of make a little bit more sense. But right now we're just kind of focusing on the sounds. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my first set. And remember, we want to start small. So my first set is basically some cow sounds. And it basically has a mew, a assembly mew, a regathering mew, lost mew, and just kind of there's not a specific order, but you want those elements in it. And it'll sound something like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the first tree and I'm going to walk to my point number 2. Excuse me, guys. And you can have, 3 trees, 4 trees, 5 trees, whatever. You just want to have this little area. Because basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to portray that here's a cow that's in estrus and there's a bull that's kind of dogging her around. And she's moving from him because she's not really ready to breed yet, but she is in estrus. And as soon as a cow comes in estrus, a bull will absolutely dog her until she's ready to breed. So I'm going to wait about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes until I do my next sound. And then my next sound, I'm going to repeat those cow sounds again, have those key elements in there. And then I'm going to pick up a stick and I'm going to start raking on the side of that tree. I'm going to rub that stick along that bark. Nothing real aggressive, nothing, just nice and easy raking. Because remember, we want to build this up. And then I'm going to walk to my next stand. And then on that one, I'm going to repeat the cow sounds again, but we're going to introduce another new element. So we're going to introduce those huffs, grunts, and whines. So basically, it's starting to kind of heat up a little bit. This bull's dog and this cow, she's not, she's continually moving from him. He's getting a little frustrated, and so we're going to move on to the next one. Now, on the next one is when I'm going to start really ramping it up and add in the excitement. Okay, so we added in kind of that demanding mew, that cow saying, pay attention to me, some excited chuckles, things are kind of ramping up. Now at this point, I'm going to kind of shorten that distance from 2 minutes down to about, minute and a half or so. And I strongly suggest you guys use a watch, because it's amazing how slow time goes by when you're doing this, especially in this calling, this silent calling. Now at this point, when I'm moving, I'm going to go ahead and make sounds as I'm moving now. So you can do some cow sounds, you can do some huffs, you can do some glunking. The way I'm doing that glunking is I'm just saying wit, wit, wit on the reed. Wit, 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 wit. And you're barely making contact with your tongue on that reed. So now at this point, you're, excuse me, you've introduced the sounds, and you're just kind of moving around these different trees. And sometimes I may rake only, sometimes, I may whine. But notice I haven't shown any aggressive or defensive bull sounds yet. The reason being is right now, we don't have a bull that's interacting with us. And when a bull has a hot cow, he's only going to be excited. He's not really going to be on this defensive nature until another bull kind of comes in and breaks that window. And in fact, if you guys go to YouTube, type in The Mountain Project, and then click on videos and go down and find episode 42 and watch about the first 5 minutes of that. That is awesome footage of a bull that has a hot cow, and watch how much he moves around. And there are a lot of other bulls around bugling, so he's already in this defensive nature. Now, usually by this point, we're a good 20 minutes into it. And one of two things usually happens by this point. Either one, we have a bull sneaking in silently, or two, we have a bull that pipes off and acknowledges our breeding sequence. Now, most people will want to immediately turn their attention to that bull. No. Hold off, because we don't even know what we're dealing with yet. And we want to kind of take that bull's temperature. We want to know what we're dealing with so that we know which avenue we can go with our calling approach. So, and it's going to depend on how this bull starts responding. And so what we're doing is we're just focusing on our breeding sequence, because we're painting a picture here is what we're doing. Painting a picture that there's a bull with a hot cow and he's tending to her. And that's the image that we're trying to portray. And so far, we haven't had any bulls that are really competing with us, so there's no reason to really get too aggressive or too defensive at this point. Now, what you can actually do is you can start adding in those huffs, grunts, and whines to where you do the more aggressive growl. So those huffs, grunts, and whines on the grunts. Heavier huffing, and when you whine, make it louder and shorter, kind of more air with the diaphragm to give it more attitude. So you're just stepping up the notch in that attitude with the bull. He's kind of, he's getting frustrated with the cow, but he's already kind of getting a little agitated that, there's another bull. And this is where how these bulls respond are really going to tailor which direction I'm going to go. So say I do that more aggressive huff, grunts, and whines, and I get a response back from a bull. Just this real timid bugle. Okay, that's telling me that that's a younger age class bull. That I don't want to get aggressive with him, because if I get aggressive with him, the chances of me pushing him away are really, really high. So with him, I'm going to focus more with the cow sounds and the raking and the glunking and just, little huffs. And if I do any whines, I'm going to match his intensity on his bugle. I'm going to mimic his bugle. If he's whining, I'm whining. That way, you never run the risk of intimidating that bull. He feels comfortable and confident enough to come in and really scent check that cow, because he kind of thinks he has a shot with her, because maybe you're not a real dominant bull either. Now, if you have a bull that all of a sudden comes in and or gives you a challenge bugle or a lip ball bugle, then you know that you're dealing with a more mature bull. And that's the one thing about this breeding sequence, is this breeding sequence really attracts breeding age bulls or more dominant older class bulls. That's why it's effective on these, but also this is highly effective because we're kind of, we're starting the same way in this and that, but as soon as we get a bull engaged, we're kind of taking that temperature of the bull to see what we're dealing with, and then we're tailoring what we're doing within that breeding sequence to match the bull that we're calling to. And this is why we end up calling so many bulls in, because we don't intimidate. It's not just one cookie cutter way, bang, this is all we're doing. We're kind of morphing as we're going. Now, the thing I've noticed too is sometimes that bull that started kind of timid and we're matching his timidness, all of a sudden he gains a little bit of confidence and his aggression level starts rising. Well, then we raise our responses to match him. So we match our aggression to his aggression, but we are still controlling that interaction. Okay? Now, if you get that dominant bull that hits you with that challenge bugle or hits you with that lip ball, then at that point, yeah, you want to lip ball back to him. You want to enforce your dominance back on him. And in fact, this is the point where, remember, we want to be on offense. We want to be controlling this. And if that bull bugles and then we're responding to him, he's on offense. We're on defense. If he's on offense, he's probably just going to get to a point and hang, and he's going to wait for either you or your cow to come to him. So what we're going to do is we're still moving around our platform here. We're going to do some cow sounds or something, but we're going to be ready. And as soon as we hear him bugle, okay, we already know he's a dominant bull. He's already given us the dominant bull cue. As soon as we hear him bugle, we're going to cut him off with that lip ball. That point, we own the offense. We're in charge. He's responding to what we're doing. And what's kind of cool on this, especially with dominant bulls, you're going to see them reach a level of intensity and pissed off, basically, to where they don't hang up. I mean, think about when you've been in places and a fight started. If those two people really want to fight, the one person's not going to walk halfway across the room, start in the middle, and start jawing, waiting for the person to, come to him. If this person really wants to fight, he's going to go all the way across the room to that person. Same way with this bull, especially dominant bulls, especially because we have a hot cow. He's trying to show dominance to our cow, but we're coming over the top of him and telling him we're more dominant. Oh, they get to a point where their eyes are bulging, their nostrils are flared, they're peeing all over themselves. I mean, they flat out come on a beeline, on a string, and they will go through stuff to get to you because they are that mad. So that's basically kind of the breeding sequence and kind of taking the bull's temperature. Now, what happens if we get to that 20-minute mark or so and we haven't heard a bugle or we don't have a bull sneaking in? Well, there's things that you can do to where your shooter out front can start acting like a bull, meaning he can start bugling back to you and responding to your breeding sequence. And we've done this before to where I've kind of done my breeding sequence and then he's elevated his bugling and then I started interacting with him, that because of what we're doing has triggered other bulls to go off. Now, same thing, I'm interacting with my hunting partner, this bull over here cracks off. We're not going to jump immediately, focus attention to him. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. Dang it, sorry guys. We're going to keep doing what we're doing because we want him to think that he's missing out on a party, which gets his excitement and aggression level raised even more. Once he gets to that point, once he breaks that level, listen to the bugles that you're getting back. You hear those dominant style bugles, then it's time to go ahead and engage with him. The shooter now goes silent and the shooter slips over in between the caller and the bull. Now the caller has to pay attention to which direction the wind's going and which direction that bull is coming, because he's going to have to shift one way or another to bring that bull by on the upwind side of the shooter. So that's very, very important as the caller. It is your job to bring the bull on the upwind side of your shooter. That's why it's critical for the caller to know where the shooter is at. So we've done kind of that back and forth type deal sometimes to get that bull going. And it's kind of funny because sometimes you'll get there and there's nothing and all of a sudden you guys start doing this and bang, 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 you get multiple bulls going. They were there the whole time and you're like, you little suckers. It's just funny how something can trigger them to all of a sudden want to be a part of what's going on. Now, what happens is if we're moving and we're locating and then we get a bull to respond. Well, first off, did we pinpoint where that bugle came from? If not, we're going to stay right there and try to get him to bugle again so we can pinpoint his location. Once we pinpoint his location, now all the calculations start happening. Where is he at? Is he stationary or is he moving? If he's moving, which direction is he heading and where is he heading? How far away is he? What time of morning is it? And how long do I think it's going to take me to get over to him? Because you want to calculate all these things. If he's stationary, that's great. But if he's moving, then you kind of got to calculate, okay, where is he going? And again, this is where understanding your hunting area really comes into play. Oh, he's heading up to that bedding area. I know exactly where he's going. But how long is it going to take me to get over there and what time of morning is it? Because remember, thermal's blowing down until it starts heating up, then they turn and start going uphill. The mistake that a lot of people make is they're down here, they get an answer up here, they stay on this line and then start going straight up. The only problem is they start going straight up and then those thermals change. That bull gets a nose full of human coming up and he's out of there. If I'm in this scenario, I always kind of gain elevation first, kind of do this little half moon to get that elevation so that I'm on the same plane. The reason we want to be on the same plane is it doesn't matter if the thermals are blowing uphill or downhill. If you're on the same level, he's never going to smell you. That's the key. The wind is your ally. Use it in your favor. If you always set up with the wind in your favor, the elk is never going to smell you.